In this exercise, we're going to work on the half-inch overlock closed. It's marked here on your pattern piece as O.V.C, which is the abbreviation for overlocked closed. So I've got my pattern. Let's lay out the fabric. And again, this fabric doesn't have a selvage on it, so I'm going to do my stretch test. Give, no give. So this must be our straight grain. And again, the arrows on our pattern go along the straight grain, and I'm not sure I trust this straight edge that it's exactly on the straight grain. So I'm going to move this just a little bit away from that, and then I'm going to line this up, and I'm going to just double check to make sure that that grain line runs along that straight grain line. And if you need to, use weights to hold the pattern in place. I'm going to use my pencil, trace around the pattern. Don't forget your notch marks. And then I'm going to cut out. Don't forget to clip your notches. I'm going to use a ruler to mark my cut line on this pattern piece. Then I'll use a marking pen to mark the face side. Match face sides together along the edge and pin in place. Now this seam, we're going to sew a 1/2 inch seam all the way down. We won't press it. We will actually just go straight to the overlock machine and overlock the edge of this without cutting anything off. That's very important. At the end, after we do press, we go back to measure during assessment to make sure that we still have a 1/2 inch seam allowance after we have done the overlock seam. Now we're ready to go to the machine. Alright, so I'm ready to sew my 1/2 inch seam overlocked closed. And so I need to sew the seam first. So just like our other seams, make sure that we have our face sides together, aligning our cut edge, our seam edge together. Press our foot up, push the fabric along the 1/2 inch guideline, just past where the needle will enter. Put the presser foot down, needle down, and we're going to start with the back stitching, and then we'll sew the seam. Get ready to back stitch. Bring that needle all the way up, press our foot up, and you can remove your fabric. Clip your threads. And now we have our 1/2 inch seam, and now we're ready to go over to the overlock. Okay, I'm getting ready to overlock my 1/2 inch overlock closed seam, and I don't necessarily need to press this before I do this. You can if you want to, but I'm going to wait until the end to press. Make sure you have your snips ready, and as you may remember from your machine orientation, for the overlock machine, you're going to need to push the fabric up close to the needle to get started. So you'll lift the presser foot and then you're going to push the fabric up close to where the needle is right up here. You can see that. Now remember that you have this knife. We don't want to be putting the fabric over here where the knife is. We have this little guard here, which actually gives us a place where we can position the fabric to the edge of that so that we won't be cutting our seam allowance off. So when we have our tech pack, and it says 1/2 inch finished seam, we want to make sure that after we finish overlocking, that our seam from the stitch line to the edge of the seam allowance still measures 1/2 inch. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're lining that edge up right to where the knife is. And that will just cut off these extra little yarns that are fraying off, and to make a nice finish. So again, we're gonna lift up the presser foot, push that fabric up close to the needle, and make sure that your cut edge is lined up with the knife. And then we will actually just sew. So the fabric has gone through all the way. It's completely overlocked now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to hold on to the fabric, and I'm going to continue to overlock and just kind of tug it gently. And you want to leave a length of that thread, if you remember from your orientation. And then I'm going to go ahead and clip this, trim off that. And this is your overlocked edge. And now we can go to the pressing mat and press it.